industry, as in every other industry, intellectual property rights are there. So whether it's trademarks for particular forms of wind power, or it's patents covering particular turbines, for example, or it's patents and know-how covering information which is generated in water treatment. In the whole area, in the whole green area, intellectual property rights are there. And in fact, Manmohan Singh, the Indian Prime Minister, he has suggested that because there are a lot of patents in the green space, that there ought to be some international consideration for having those licensed on favourable terms to developing countries. Now, whether that is going to happen or not, I don't know. But whether it's the green area or any other area, today businesses want to protect their added value through intellectual property rights. You look here in Singapore at Hyflux, which is in the water treatment area. They have very valuable patents. They have very valuable utility model protection, which is for minor incremental innovations, as well as obviously their trademarks. And they go out and they sell projects and they sell services and they trade in China, in India, in the Middle East, relying on that intellectual property. I don't think there are any unique aspects other than in some countries like the United Kingdom and like the United States, there has been discussion about fast-tracking green patent applications and looking at them on an expedited basis. But the green industry, the green industries around the world are playing the intellectual property game just as every other industry is. If they have a development, if they innovate, if they create, then they want to get the protection which allows them to then license those technologies to people in other countries to exploit or to commercialize. And they need to protect their investment in green development. Governments should be certainly concerned about the protection of intellectual property rights, because the way that the world is going, the way that international trade is going, protecting the added value of products and services is where businesses are going to succeed. Businesses are going to succeed in life sciences, in IT, in all the sectors which are growing through the use of intellectual property rights. So if you're the Singapore government, whereas in the 80s and 90s a large part of the economy was about manufacturing, now the Singapore government has realised Singapore can't compete with China, can't compete with Vietnam, to some extent can't compete with Indonesia in manufacturing, so it has to go up the added value chain and attract knowledge-based industries, attract the life sciences area, the water treatment area, the area where intellectual property protects the difference between the manufacturing cost and what the company can sell for. So if you look at Apple, again, the iPhone, the manufacturing costs are less than 5% of what you and I will pay Apple for the iPhone. The other 95% is the added value, represented by the patents, the trademarks, the designs, why you would buy Apple as opposed to the next one. And it's that that's protected by intellectual property. So if governments are going to encourage innovation and creativity, which all governments today want to do, then they have to take intellectual property rights seriously. So if you look at China, a lot of the media discussion today is China is the pirate capital of the world, is the counterfeit capital of the world, or to say capital, is the biggest country in counterfeiting, biggest country in piracy. But in its 2008 national IP strategy, the Beijing government said Chinese businesses must start creating their own intellectual property, must start innovating themselves, because the Chinese government realizes they don't want to continue having to pay royalties to the likes of Cisco or Microsoft or Qualcomm. They would prefer for Chinese businesses to create their own patent portfolios, their own copyright works, their own brands, so that consumers in China don't spend money which flows back to Redmond, Washington, or to California. So all countries now are, to a greater or lesser extent, playing the intellectual property game. Because since the World Trade Organization introduced new rules about this in 1994, tariffs have come down, so intellectual property rights now are the way that businesses can separate themselves from their competitors, because you're no longer allowed, as a government, to hide behind high tariff barriers. So you must encourage creativity and innovation on the part of your domestic business.